So why is there so much expectation on black men to do 10,000 things? Why can't they do what they do very well? And the problem is we know that we don't want to work together. And I'm gonna break it down why. Name this one the shame of fame, real quick, so I can get into this subject. I want to talk about something that I think is monumentally important that we don't really get into, and it's the shame of fame. Because we get shamed for what we're good at, right? And we get shamed for what we're not good at. So I was going through and I was writing these notes down yesterday because I was doing a breakdown. Because I hear this thing a lot about people who consider themselves to be better, almost, because they like, I'm not famous, I do this in the streets, or I'm this type of activist, or I ain't got to do it for the camera, and all of these different things that people say. I had to think about that. Why do people think that, a person that's poor think they better than somebody that's rich? And it goes into many different things, but what I'm about to break down, I think you all go understand something, and it might click. And this is also the reason why you can't work a lot of times with family. And it's radical because it goes to the root of something. And so you wonder sometimes, why do we compete so much in this space? And people call it, a lack of growth mindset and a lack mindset, but we're not getting to the root. And once we get to the root, we can understand it. And a lot of it is the context in which things are framed and what we associate with it. But there's something missing in that. So if somebody has popularity, then they're going to shame you for your popularity. Oh, you on social media. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm in the streets. Oh, ain't nobody know me. I don't have a big platform. You know what I mean? You doing it for this, that, and the third. And they make them feel better that they're not doing that because they have associated popularity or fame with dark traits such as narcissism, maybe shallowness, right? Or they've connected it to, I got it written down, matter of fact, let me not go off the head on this one so y'all get the full breakdown. So they connected to these traits. So they say, well, if I don't have that, then that must mean that I don't have those traits. But it's a false association. And the reason it's a false association because they never think about how our greatest leaders had fame. Our greatest leaders had popularity because they were good at what they were doing. And it's not fame, same way it's not money that's the issue. It's what you do with it. But the reality of it is, and this is something that they don't want to address within themselves, and a lot of people have it, is you're just not good at it. Some people are not good in front of the camera. Some people don't want to do the editing. Some people don't want to be radically creative in how they figure it out. Some people don't want the consistency. They don't have the experience. So when they tried and it didn't work, they resisted it. And they said, oh, man, this ain't for me. So now those who prove themselves to be good at that skill set, because today it's a modern skill set of being able to utilize the resources in these tools successfully to create you a platform, to learn how to market, to learn how to brand, right? To learn how to edit, to create content, to be in front of the camera and have this type of personality and to be up on these trends and how to move around these algorithms. It becomes too much for people. So we take old blueprints of what, things used to look like. Well, our ancestors didn't do this. Well, they didn't have this. Duh, of course they didn't do it. They didn't show everything on camera. They didn't have cameras. They didn't have a platform to show anything. What are we talking about? That don't make sense. So there's this shaming that happens when people can do things that you can't do, right? And or you connect these dark traits to it, negative association to it, but you fail to connect the positive associations to it. So how was it that the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolms and the all of the leaders in the past were able to utilize their fame and popularity to create impact and create service? But you're telling me it's a bad thing. And then why is it that you believe that there's only one method? And if people are not following your way and they're not coming under your school of doing things versus having them a modern, innovative, and new way of reaching the people, then there has to be this problem. And I'm going to tell you something that most people won't admit to themselves and people don't admit inside the household is that people don't really want to contribute to a community. They want to be significant. And the reason that significance is a problem in the sense that if it's your highest need because you don't feel enough of yourself, you don't feel like you're a good or you have these insecurities and these imperfections, you have this undying need to feel significant. So what that makes you do is you have to compete with other people instead of work with them because you have to beat them so you can be better than them. So therefore you can't work with them. So this first happens in the household. So maybe you didn't get, enough attention when you were younger, right? In the black community, we know that we have an issue with significance. We chase fame without substance, so we don't use our impact for anything. And they sell to us these global luxury brands based on aspiration, this feeling of becoming more or reaching this new class status. So we buy things and we move and we do so many things based on significance, which is why they can play us, give us pennies on the dollars as long as they give us a good look and some fame, because they know we want to be significant more than anything, because we don't have our own country. We don't have a good culture. We don't have our roots embedded in our practices and rituals and beliefs and faiths and have knowledge of self. So they understand that this motherfucker want to be significant so bad, I can get him to sign a bad contract just for the fame. And instead of the family working together to say, well, it ain't about significance for me, it's about growth, it's about community and a connection inside the family. Nah, I want to be better than them. I want people to see me like I'm bigger than them. So your need ain't taken care of. So that becomes your primary reason for action. So therefore, instead of focusing on growth, which will have you focusing on skill development and education for the purpose of contributing to the community to be of service, and then through that service is how you get your significance, right? Which will be a completely different funnel than putting your significance at the top. And if you're not significant, then you're not going to contribute to the community, right? To help it grow. So there's an improper ordering of your needs. And that comes from being in trauma environments, right? And people that have their needs taken care of and they're not looking to be the most significant, they can work with others because their primary thought process is how can I contribute and be of service, and how can I create connections? And through doing that, I will become more and more significant to my community. Now, that's always been my framework, right? I see it wholly missing in media of good representation, high-level conversation. There's so much distraction. There's negative archetypes. So my significance is going to come from first my growth, my development, my skills. Let me learn, let me educate, let me gain experience, right? Then as I develop these skills of creating content, leveraging this media, then I can contribute to the culture. So then my second one is contribution. How do I add to? Right? So now I'm not thinking about who I compete with. Who can I collaborate with for the purpose of building out a larger community so that we can have progress? So your order of needs based on your hierarchy of thinking, based on the traumas that you went through and everything that's happened to you throughout your life, it changes your why you do things. And so it's very hard for families to work together growing up in poverty when they're focused on significance, which makes them compete with each other instead of become team players to contribute to each other. And so now let's push out and we can see why other communities work. And we're going to look at other communities that focus on family and they're focused on the contribution to that family, the growth of that family and the connection of that family, the relationships. Then They're going to get their significance by what they contribute to. Oh, I'm going to become a doctor. I'm going to become an engineer. I'm going to become a lawyer. Oh, this is the family trade. I'm going to bring in these deals. Whatever it is, you get your significance. So when we look at the Walton families, we look at families that have bloodlines, that have trust set up. They have guidelines on how you can be significant in this family. But first, you got to go through growth. You got to develop these skills. You got to get educated. You got to learn, right? So you can contribute to the community. And by going through that program, that succession, now you've made the family proud. But we think that our individual significance should make the family proud. Well, how does that contribute to the community? And then when one person that they see is doing something good in one arena, they say, well, you should be more significant than that person. How come 19 Keys got more followers than you building out this, that, and the third? Well, you don't have the skill sets that I have. So you're jealous of a strength that's your weakness. Instead of saying that, wait a minute, well, all that matters is that we work together and we contribute as a community so this thing continue to grow. So let me hit up 19 Keys. Let me send them a professional, email, or let me reach out for a way to collaborate our resources, because that's what it's about. We ain't trying to compete. I don't need to be more significant. If he got a platform, shoot, then we got a platform. And no, instead we look at what is he not doing so that we can try to unravel him, so that we can make him seem less than and make ourselves seem more, so that we can be more significant to the people. I know the code. I see it every time. It's psychology. And once we are able to focus on growth, let's focus on the growth of this thing. It changes the way we operate. It changes our why. When I call my brothers and we talking about the growth of our operations and how we can contribute to each other, that's the basis of collaboration. So then we have operations that can coincide. So we have cooperation, working together for what? A common cause. So when we place significance on somebody's wealth and material gain, yet they don't have contribution, so we're giving them significance because they're wealthy, but they don't have any contribution to the growth of the community. We just set ourselves up for failure because we're telling them they don't have to do anything but improve their circumstance to be loved. When I was younger, I was always taught, why do we love the devil? And the answer was because he gives us nothing. Why do you love the devil? He ain't gave you nothing, but you'll defend him. He doesn't contribute to your community whatsoever. Doesn't help you at all. And most of it you're going to find very selfish reasons. You find some people on the left, well, hey, I get to take a picture. I get to be significant when nobody else will give me a platform. I get it. It happens all the time. Nobody else took you serious. Nobody gave you a platform. Nobody talked to you. Sure, they put me on the podium. They allow me to take pictures. They allow me to be embraced. Yeah, they're using you. So now you feel significant. So now you're going to contribute. On the right side, they do the same thing. On the left side, they do the same thing. So people are finding their tribes because they understand what you need, because they know what's missing. You don't know how to use your skills, gifts, and talents to fit into a dynamic. And because we don't have a philosophy, right? An idea, a vision that we can contribute to collectively, we can't gain significance in this culture because there's not just one. There's multiple cultures that we don't talk about. Now, if you want to be significant in a bad culture, a culture that lacks values, right? Then you're going to make the type of music that will gain you significance. Well, I could just talk about murder. I could talk about, you could talk about sex. You could talk about drugs. Or you can talk about literally nothing and just vibes. That's valued in this culture. You're going to gain significance. You can contribute to it. You would get money. So the young mind says, well, I come from a place where I have nothing and I am nobody. So let me do the thing that will allow me to contribute to this culture. It's not a good culture, but at least I get some of my needs taken care of. And how do we know that? Because the way that we justify it, people will be like, well, they get into the bag, right? Look at what they doing. It's how we get played over and over again, the manipulation of our psychology. They hear us and be like, what are the things that we lack? And then they just replace it. So what we have to do is create and produce a transformative agenda for the people to follow, but it has to be built on the basis of a philosophy. So what we do is we produce a philosophy, because what we are complaining about, America is an empire, but it's also an empire built off ideas. Capitalism is an idea, it's a construct, come from a economic philosophy about how to do things. There's different philosophies that run the world. There's Marxism, there's socialism, right? There's democracy, there's the Republican, right? There's nihilism, there's existentialism, there's all these philosophies. And so when people be like, oh, you just talking, these are just ideas. Well, don't you know that the world is ran off that? And you can't tell me one philosopher who actually built something. They didn't build it. They just had to do their part, which was the thinking and presenting to the world. And then everybody else played their part that fit into it. So then the first step, and you have to build that philosophy based on shared values so that people can contribute to it, to say, okay, what are the ideas and philosophies we want to build on and contribute to? Now, the problem that comes in is that we don't know how to come to a point of agreement, because we have religions that get in our way, right? Well, this brother don't like this brother. He's Christian, and his Christianized thinking because you grew up in Baptist, Orthodox, Apostle Crystal, whatever you call that. You grow up in Catholic, Jehovah, Israelite, Moorish, whatever it may be. You got Sunni, Nation of Islam, right? You got all of these different things, and there's going to be a different interpretation, right, of that. So we got to get radical and go to the core of it. All right, well, what's the core of it? What do we need, first of all? And this is why we start at freedom, justice, and equality, right? And we say we can argue about religion when we're free. But if we don't have freedom, and which you can't do without having power, freedom can't be given to you, it has to be established by your own will and power, right? Then nothing else we can move forward on. So we say, okay, what do we want to build as far as shared values? Well, number one, I believe, has to be knowledge of self, and two, family. You don't have to go in that particular order, but family. Family reestablishes the core, right? Now, that's the man, the woman, the child. Everybody don't agree on it. That just means that we're going to build out different worlds. So what you do is you go find people who agree with your version of the world. But the problem is that we have constructed these so many different false partnerships with people, because what do they call intersectionality has destroyed the integrity of movements. It's too many intersections. Too many intersections. Way too many intersections. Nah, I need focus. Let's start with the Blacks family. We got way too many turns going on. Why is there so many intersections going on, man? Y'all got to get your own lane. You know what I mean? Take another highway. We only need one focus over here. So we talk about unifying, but how can people utilize their skills to contribute to something that they don't even know what they're contributing to? So starting with the Black family, then it gets to a specific framework of how we produce that. Now, how are you going to have a good Black family without young men and women, healthy young men and women? How we going to do that? The men crazy, women crazy, men soft, the women hard. You know what I'm saying? Brittany Griner talking about she the pops, and her baby, and her family. Like, we can't start from there. We can't do nothing with that. We can't start nowhere. So now we can start building up a base to be like, okay, well, how do we fix the problems of this generation moving forward. Because we have to resolve these ideas about patriarchy and matriarchy, and it has to be customized based on our idea of a world / America we want to build. And we conflate the two when we talk about white patriarchal intellect and rulership, and we automatically place that and put the black man under that. And then inside of that, it creates a division inside the household. And when we diagnose things, getting knowledge of the problem, then that's when we start to produce the cure. So we need strong young males that go through rites of passage to become strong men that can lead their households, so that there are safe women that can be nurtured in their environments. So of course they have to be protected, but we have to get to the roots of how do we establish protection, right? And once we get into those values and we can agree that these are values, then we say, okay, well, we got to educate ourselves. We got to eat right. And we have to control the environment, which in this age is our digital environment, right? As well as, when we looking on screens and we talking about media. So once we have people that is established to say, yes, knowledge itself. Yes, family is right. Yes, controlling our economics. Yes, educating ourselves, right? These matter to us the most.